Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Marsha, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Good.
Lots going on here.
Yeah? Nothing noisy, though. We waited till late enough that all the noise is gone.
Yes, we were scheduled to record yesterday, but moved it to today because yesterday I had the Alaskan yellow cedar
Bonsai.
The former bonsai. So I think I talked about this, but in case I didn't, really the quick story about this is when my parents bought this house in 1962, there was a Japanese garden between the two houses that actually belonged to the neighbors. And in that Japanese garden was a bonsai'd Alaskan yellow cedar that was maybe 4 feet tall. And years have passed.
Yes, I can say because I was born in 1962, so
yes.
59 years have passed.
Yes, have passed. Anyway, it was about 40 feet tall and had grown. There were originally 5 trunks and 2 were removed. I was able to remove 2 of them a few years ago because the reason I wanted to get rid of this tree is it had damaged the sewer line. We had to put in a new sewer line, irrigation line, the new deck, and a new roof. So it had done so much damage that it had to go. And here's the real reason. Is last summer sitting on the new deck, I got hit twice by bird poop because the crows would hang out in the tree. That's the real reason.
Well, the palm tree next door, the date palm, I think it was like a date palm, next door was taken down yesterday also. So we would have had tree work at one of our houses regardless. And Robert saw the owner of the house this morning, and he's like, "What happened to the tree?" And he said, "Oh, it was old. It had to go." Which there was nothing wrong with that palm tree. I'm not a particularly big fan of palm trees, but it was a pretty nice specimen if you like palm trees. In your case, you really actually did have a good reason to get rid of the tree, not just you didn't
it had
want
done
it.
so much damage, you know, and it's just, I'll put on, I have not posted any pictures yet on Instagram. I'll post pictures, and when people see, what it was like, but it was kind of an emotional day just because I don't like cutting down trees. I mean, it was a spectacular, it had been beautiful at one time, but it's just so big and in completely the wrong place, and cutting off light. So my bedroom is much lighter. The kitchen is much lighter. But mostly it was just the damage. And then,
and the fact that it was right next to the neighbor's garage and
it's actually
things that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's about a half inch from the neighbor's garage, So anyway, it's been a long process. I won't go into the whole thing, but you have to get a permit in the city of Seattle to have a tree taken down, especially a tree this size. And it was a long journey and difficult, but they finally got the permit. And they came yesterday and cut the tree down. I got the estimate and signed the contract in last August. And I got I think it was on Thursday or Friday of last week, I got the email from the company that was going to cut the tree down that they had received the permit and they had scheduled me and gave me the date that the tree was scheduled to come down. I said, that's great. And so then I called them on Monday to confirm, because it's in the contract, and I confirmed once again that they were bringing protection for my new deck. because this tree is sandwiched between my deck. It's about 4 inches from my deck, the base of the tree. And so I had confirmed that they were going to bring protection, put something down on the deck, and they arrived at 9 o'clock in the morning with no plywood to put on the deck. And the guy who I found out later was the manager of the crew, was a little snippy with me, a little rude. And I was like, I kind of had that feeling of like, what do I do? And I decided, WWRD. What would Robert do? And Robert would go out there and tell him to stop until they got the plywood. So I went out there and I told them to stop. And they said, okay. And they stopped for a few minutes. And then I went back in the house and I saw that they were dropping branches again. So I went back out and I said, I told you to stop. You need to stop. I've called the company and they're sending plywood. And I'm telling you, you need to wait until the plywood arrives. So they stood there on my deck. And I went and made a cup of coffee and I sat in my breakfast nook, which is right overlooking, and I just sat in the window so they could see me. And then they just stopped. They put all their tools down at that point and went and sat in their trucks.
Cursing out old lady Failer.
Yes. But I'm going to say something sort of sexist. There's moments like this when I wish I had a man. But, because I sometimes feel being female, and now, when I was, I think it's always been this way, just being female, that I think that I'm discounted in some way, and especially when I was younger, and then when you get older, you're discounted in another way.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just like, Robert would go out there and tell them, no, you're stopping, because they all said to me, well, we have insurance to cover any damage to the deck. But my point is, I don't want to have any damage done to
right.
I don't want to go down that path of having to deal with it. I don't even want to deal with having a damaged deck.
Why would you not take precautions rather than just say, oh, I have insurance in case something happens?
Yes.
That does not make sense.
Yeah. So, so I'm glad I did it. And then I did go out afterwards, though. So I'm not going to say the name of the company because they ended up being great. And we had a rough start, but they, once the plywood came, the guys got to work. There was a crew of 5 and I was watching them, and it really is remarkable what they were doing, because they have to climb up into the tree. I mean, it's 40 feet. Mm-hmm. They're up there 40 feet with rope. You've had tree work done, so
how
endless
this happens. Tree work, yes.
Endless tree work. And then they tie every branch before they cut it is tied onto a rope, and then it's lowered down. So it's not like they're just up there dropping wood. They're very careful. And such a tight area that they had to work in, with 2 houses and a garage and the infamous deck. So I went out, at the same time they were doing all of this, first Mark and then later on Ben and I were working on the garage roof, because we've had to do some patching because it was leaking. And so that's another whole story for another episode of the podcast. But we're up there working on this roof, and I came down at one point, and while I was up there working, I got to thinking, I wonder if there was just like, oh, I know what it was, is when the young woman from the company arrived in the pickup truck with the plywood. She then said to me, okay, now we're grinding out the stump, right? And I said, no, we're not, because first of all, it was too expensive, but also they couldn't, now that the deck is built, they can't get the machinery in there. And just to grind out the stump was going to be the same price as removing the tree. And it doesn't matter. It's in an area, once my fence is up, it's like a no man's land. Nobody goes over there. So I wasn't going to do that. And so then I started thinking about that, and I thought, how come she didn't remember that I'm not having the stump removed? So the young man who was the foreman of this group, this team that removed the tree, I said to him, when he had a quiet moment, he was smoking a cigarette, and I said, hey, can we just talk for a minute? And I could just tell he's like, oh my God, what's this woman want now? But I went and I said to him, I said, I just want to talk about this morning. And I said, I think we were both a little irritated with one another. And I said, I got to thinking, is it perhaps you were not getting it? Were you given any information about the job before you arrived? And he said, no, I was given your address and told to cut down the Alaskan yellow cedar. He said, I had no idea that there was a deck. I had no idea that it was sandwiched between these two houses. I had no idea that it's like an inch from the garage and 3 inches or 4 inches from your deck. He's had nothing.
Yeah.
So, and he said, I came in, it's a dangerous job. And so his adrenaline gets a little up, which I understand after having watched them.
And so, especially if you arrive and find all these obstacles that you have to be worried about. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then he said, and he said to me, I apologize to you too. He said, I was kind of rude to you. And he said, which he was very rude to me. And I said, I accept you. I said, that's fine. I said, I think we were both a little frustrated with one another. And he said, yeah, he was not given any information about what his job was going to be. As I say, we figuratively, not literally, kissed and made up.
There was no kissing.
Yeah, there was no kissing
no
involved.
Actual kissing that occurred.
And he was and actually we started talking. He's a very interesting man. He's actually a certified arborist. And so we started talking about the other trees in the back garden and things that he said he would like to come back and, work on them because he said they need some help, which they do.
Yeah.
They definitely do. They've, the whole garden needs some work. So anyway, it turned out fine.
Well, and I can vouch for having an arborist do the work as opposed to just a tree service with the trees in our yard. But I have to, you said the tree was in the wrong place. So there was one arborist that we had that he's actually too busy now and working mostly on the Monterey Peninsula side of the county. And so we haven't been able to use him, but he was really good. And so one day he was talking and he's like, Robert had planted, we have Monterey cypress, really large ones in the yard. And there were some babies. And so, thinking sentimentally, as you do, like, we'd like to grow one of these babies to replace them because our cypresses are at the end of their life. And, the death of a tree could take 100 years, but they're definitely in the death side of they're not necessarily tree hospice, but, they're on the downward slope of their life. And some of them are gone and have had to be removed. So anyway, Robert had planted one of these babies and he's like, you don't want this tree here. You really don't want this tree here because by the time it gets to the point where it needs work, I'm going to be too old and you're going to be too old. And so I started talking to him about what tree should we plant? And we have a lot of space. There's quite a bit of space. What tree would and he reminded me of me in the summer that I volunteered at the SPCA, where people would come in to adopt a dog, and I would be read their application. In my head, I knew they were going to adopt a dog, but in my head, I was like, no, this is not a good enough family. No, this is not good enough. And basically, there was no tree that was right for our space. He cared so much about the trees having the right habitat that he practically couldn't tell me a tree that I could plant to replace the cypresses because it would physically hurt him for the tree to be in the wrong place, right? To not have the habitat that it deserved. The Monterey cypresses deserve the habitat of Highway 1, where the wind is pruning them and they can break all they want and they can have all these broken hangers and, it doesn't matter, but the wind keeps them pruned. Anyway, it just I couldn't get him to tell me. It was he was so, I don't know, it's just so reluctant to tell me a tree that would be right. Yeah. So I really can vouch for having an arborist. They do a great job making sure that the trees in your yard are not just cut right, but, information about them. So
and I even gave him cuttings. So he was excited about some of the other plants that were in the garden. Yeah. And so I gave him cuttings. So,
the other thing about that job that I think about whenever we have, here again, 15 minutes in and we're still talking about tree work.
We're more than that,
instead
Kelly.
of knitting. But when we have tree work done, I always think about, like as a job, anybody who likes to climb, like Ben likes to climb. I don't know if he would like to climb trees, but people who like to climb, who like to work outside, there's some science involved to the arborist job, but there's also the working outside and the climbing, and it just seems like it seems like it would be an interesting career choice that people wouldn't necessarily think of.
Well, and there's a real skill set because you have to know how things are going to fall,
right?
How to cut them so they go the right direction.
What to cut to make the tree not grow in a funky way.
Yeah, but when I was thinking, I was just thinking, yes, that's true. Yes, you have to. In fact, Ben has said that he is sort of interested in that too. The being an arborist. But just watching these guys with the ropes, going up there, that you've got a chainsaw, so you have to be strong. But a lot of it is I think sort of like how Ben talks about rock climbing. It's not so much about strength, but it's about skill.
Yeah.
Using your body the right way and using your tools to I don't know what the right word is, like leverage, kind of like that's not the right word. I don't know, but to like block and tackle.
Right.
If you just had a rope, you couldn't move it, but if you have the block and tackle, you can move something. Thinking that way.
It's a real problem solving.
But the other thing is funny is like you were talking about, it always hurts you a little bit to take a tree down.
Yeah. Even the palm tree that I didn't like, I was sad to see it go.
Yeah, and so it was a difficult day in a lot of ways. Because I had to go, I had to, as I say, channel Robert and or as I say, pull up my big girl panties, and,
right,
and go out there and tell him to stop. It was kind of emotional too, just because I don't like cutting down a tree, and honestly, if this tree had been in a different spot in the garden, it would still be there.
Right.
It was in the wrong spot, and I have that deodar cedar out in the front yard, which I will never get rid of. It's beautiful, and I've spent a lot of money, having work done to it to make it to keep it, right. And so it does hurt to get rid of it, and so I was kind of emotional, and when Ben finally arrived to help me with the roof, and I said to him, I'm just kind of emotional about the tree, and it's all, and he says to me, "Oh my God, grow a pair."
Someday he'll be sentimental about something.
Yeah, he's not sentimental right now. He's too young to be sentimental about anything.
That's right. That's right.
But mostly it's just like the idea that I don't like cutting down a tree.
Well, funny. You can plant another one.
No, I'm not going to plant another one.
No, I don't mean in that spot. I mean, you can plant another tree somewhere.
Oh, I can plant another tree, yes. Well, actually, what I really like to have is an apple tree. But,
so there you go.
Okay, so Kelly.
Knitting.
I'm now looking at, this is
20 minutes.
What is this? 20 minutes and 40 seconds of tree talk. So let's get on to what
There's fiber in wood.
That's true. So let's go on about projects. So I don't have very much, so I think I'm just going to go first.
Okay.
Because I don't have very much. So I have really nothing to report on the walk along tee. I've knit on it a little bit, but I've not made very much progress because other things have been going on. And mostly I've been spinning. So every night I've been spinning on the merino and the green and then the bitter chocolate. Mm-hmm. And so I'm almost have enough now that I can start plying it.
Oh, cool.
And then I am almost done with the second Abington Mitts by Jennifer Lassonde. I bound off the second mitt, and I just now have to go and pick up the stitches for the thumb.
Oh, you just have one thumb left to do? That's it?
One thumb, and I only have to pick up 12 stitches.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And knit 5 rows. So, yeah, I'm so close. I'm hoping this will not be the skull.
Don't jinx yourself by saying how close you are.
So maybe tonight I should just finish it. So
nice.
Anyway, I like them a lot. So anyway, that's all I really have.
Okay.
That's it. I don't have much to report.
All right. Well, I have a lot because last week was spring break.
Ooh,
and
yay.
then this week, we have Cesar Chavez Day. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure why. I'm not going to get into a whole calendar and union discussion on top of the tree discussion, but I am not really sure why the union decided not to give us Easter week off as our spring break, because then
that's odd.
Cesar Chavez Day would have been in the middle of spring break and not an additional holiday. But instead they split the 16-week calendar into halves and gave us spring break after week 8, which was the week before Easter week. So I had spring break, came back. Now I have Cesar Chavez Day off, and then go back to work. So weird. But anyway, the end result of it is great because I got a lot of stuff done. So I have been working. In fact, I'm working right now on the iced matcha socks from the Coffee Socks collection by Dots Dabbles Designs. And I finished the first sock, and I've got this. I'm at the top of the second sock. I've got the cuff finished, and then I'm starting on the pattern. And I think I mentioned this before. It's not really cable-y the way I thought it looked. It's more purl stitches, but it's really fun, really easy to memorize. And I should take a picture of it showing the inside, because even though it's just done with purl stitches, the design on the inside makes these ribs that are curvy. So you have this, like, I don't know, they're like wobbly ribs. I really like the inside. I think I might make a sock that was wobbly ribbing. The outside is a 3x1 rib. That's the base of the pattern, is a 3x1 rib. So the top of the sock is a 3x1 rib. So if you look on the inside, you have a one stockinette stitch going up, right? When you get out of the ribbing, that one stockinette stitch curves in and then curves out and then curves back in and curves back out. And so you've got this really interesting ribbed pattern on the inside that I would not have expected based on what's on the outside.
Oh, that is so pretty.
You would not expect, even though it's just pearls and knits, on the backside makes that sort of wobbly rib.
Very nice.
So I think I might use this again and make socks inside out. Well, inside out from this pattern.
Yeah.
And have that wobbly rib pattern. It's really pretty. So, and I love the yarn. It's got some heft to it because of the silk and maybe because of the cashmere. Nice and soft. And I love the color. It's a bluey purple color. So anyway, iced matcha socks, Invictus Yarns Seraphic, and it's a merino cashmere silk yarn, and it's really nice. The other thing that I've been working on, I've basically finished all the knitting for Frog and Toad, and I got excited and started stuffing Frog with the crushed walnut shells, and I figured out, okay, I'm going to use a funnel because I don't want these things all over the place, and I put him into one of my really tall glasses. So he's sitting inside of a glass with a funnel in his head.
Like a specimen, right?
Yeah, yes. But and then he has a funnel in the open crevice of his head that, is provisional cast on. And I start stuffing him, and I'm poking the stuffing down into the legs and poking it into the arms. And suddenly I realize, oh my God, when I get the stuffing all the way up to the head, I have to be ready to knit him closed. Do my Kitchener stitch. I haven't even picked up the provisional stitches. So I thought, okay, Kelly, just stop. Put this aside. come back to it, pick up all those stitches, and then, do the job right. Don't just get excited that you can stuff him and start stuffing him. So right now he's sitting in a glass on my kitchen table with
like
a funnel in his head.
I say like Doc Ricketts.
Yes. Like Doc Ricketts' lab.
Yeah.
So anyway, but all the clothes are done. I just have to fill up Toad, Kitchener the head together. And I think I might do that outside because that seems like it could be a very messy job with all those crushed walnut shells. So,
yeah.
But they have to be done by Sunday. So I don't have a lot of time, but I have a little bit of time to get that finished because I'm going to take them over to Faye and take Kai's books over too on Easter. So drop those off. Do nice. A drive-by drop-off because I will have my second vaccine because I have it on Saturday. But, the full immunity doesn't happen for 14 days. So I'm still going to be careful when I see them, but I will drop it off on Easter. So that's Frog and Toad. And I'm already starting to forget how fiddly they were and thinking, I could make another set. I have a colleague whose daughter is the same age as Faye. And I thought, you know what? I should get another set of those books and make another Frog and Toad. I don't know if I'll do it, but I am kind of forgetting the pain of the fiddliness. And then I have weaving.
I saw your posts on Instagram. You've been busy.
Spring break, I declared myself a weaving retreat. I cleaned house Saturday and Sunday of spring break. I edited the podcast on Monday of spring break and did a little bit more housework and laundry, I think. And then I declared the rest of spring break to be a weaving retreat. And so basically all I did was weave. The last day, I didn't stop for lunch. I just wove. All day long I wove. Dinner was on our own. There was just me and Robert here, and we just ate what we wanted. And I just wove all day the last day of my designated weaving retreat. So I did the canvas weave sampler from the Jane Stafford Guild online. And what I turned it into was, instead of doing just one long sampler, I made the first part of it was I called it a dresser scarf, like a little table runner, but for a dresser. And so I made a little, and I don't know, is there another name for it?
Well, runner, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Like a woven doily. So anyway, I made a cover, a top, a table topper, dresser scarf for the cabinet that Robert has for the linens in the dining room. And so it's a little wider than I would like it. And he expected it to flow over the edges. And I didn't do that. I made it stop at the top, not hang over. So I did that first. That was just plain weave. And then I was bright white because I used the warp that I had put on, the warp that I had wound at Christmas time that was white with red trim. And I wove it with white. And then I tea-dyed it. So now it's beige. Looks a lot better. So that was the first thing. And then after that, I made towels. And I made, I think, 6 towels altogether. 5 dish towels and a hand towel. And did a whole bunch of different experimenting and used a whole bunch of colors. Had just a fabulous time. Got them washed them up, hemmed them up. The only thing that's not quite finished is I'm going to hand hem the thing I made for Robert. And that is not done. But the first hem is done, like the sewn, to get the raw edge out of the way, and then I'm going to turn it and hem it by hand. The last hem. So.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah, that was a lot of weaving. I was tired.
And was it sort of cathartic to do that and after all of the first half of the order?
Yeah. I totally felt like making things is my mental health. Like just the ability to just stand there at the loom and just make stuff was, it was so rejuvenating, I guess would be the word. Yeah, it was great. And I watched the Jane Stafford videos, and I watched my the Knitting Men video podcast that I started watching a little while ago. I caught up on those, and Sweet Tea No Shade and Needles at the Ready. And then I watched all the, some other knitting podcasts, and I watched Netflix, and just standing there at the loom with the computer going and thinking and just making. I just felt really really good. So that was fun. And then I thought, okay, well, weaving's going to be on a hold for a little while, but I had a little extra time. So first I wound the warp for the next Jane Stafford Guild thing. She put out the information about what it was going to be, and it was small. It's a scarf. And I thought, well, maybe I'll make it into dish towels. And then I thought, no, just make a scarf because it's not wide. It'll be fast, and you have yarn. So I wound the warp for that. So that's all ready to go as soon as she publishes the next episode, which is Huck weaving. And then the reading in bed blanket, I had the time to actually thread the loom with it.
Wow.
Yeah. But the reason is after, weaving something with 300 and some odd ends, that you have to thread twice, once through the dent and once through the heddle. And then you have to tie them all. There's a lot of threads, right? Mm-hmm. The blanket is, like worsted weight yarn, and it's only 6 ends per inch as compared to 22 ends per inch. So that's a lot fewer threads. And then the warp is only not even 3 yards long because the blanket is going to be 3 feet wide and 5 feet long. So it's not even the blanket's not even 2 yards long, and then you need a little bit for waist. So I think it's like a 2.5 or 3 yard warp. So really short. So I was able to thread it. Robert was able to help me wind it on. It went really smoothly. It didn't take hardly any time at all. It felt like making, an Aran weight sweater after you make a fingering weight sweater.
A lace weight sweater or something.
Yeah. Going from size 0 needles to size 9 needles or something. It was really easy and fast to just do in the evening. So a couple of evenings. So I got that accomplished. And so I've got something ready to go to start weaving tomorrow, which I won't because tomorrow's a work day. But, I have something ready to weave on the loom, and then I have something warped and ready to thread on my table loom once I get the instructions from the Jane Stafford Guild on how to weave it. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's
very nice.
My projects.
Well, I've been looking at Ravelry at your reading in bed blanket.
I'm so happy with it.
The colors are nice.
I did make a rookie mistake. I will admit to a rookie mistake, even though I've been weaving for a while. When I was counting, I was organizing I was doing it in 3 parts, and I thought, okay, I've got 24 ends in each section. I knew how many ends I needed, but I was counting in a place where when I count once, it was actually 2 warp threads. So I got about 2/3 of the way through it. I got 2 sections done before I realized that every thread I counted was actually 2 warp threads. And I didn't need to go any further. In fact, I had already gone further than I needed to be because I went further than half. You know what I mean? If I was going to count everything, if I was going to count every 2 as 1, I only needed to have half of it. So anyway, I won't explain how that happened. It's kind of embarrassing that I even made that mistake, but so I stopped, and I have a little section of the warp that I didn't use at all, that I'm going to use for my weft. I'm going to save it, and if I have to use it for weft threads, I will. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really pretty on the loom. I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
Yeah. The colors are pretty, really nice.
And it's all hand spun. Mm-hmm. And not all dyed by me. I think 2 of them are dyed by me, and 3 of the colors came that way, came dyed, and 2 of them I dyed. But I'm going to be really happy with it when it's done. So I'll keep you posted once I start weaving. Yeah.
Really nice. And what else?
The weave along is ending.
Oh no! Well, is that it for projects?
Yeah, that's the end of my projects.
Yes, the weave along is about to end. So quickly go in there and put your projects in there.
Yeah, actually, by the time this gets posted, it will be over.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time this episode is up and published, it will be over. And the next episode will announce prizes and talk about sort of the highlights of the winter weave along.
So we should also then talk about our extremities knit and crochet along. I'm making the Abington Mitts for that, and that ends April 25th. So, and that's knit anything for your extremities, which we've talked about in every single episode, but we'll just briefly say it's hands, arms, legs, feet.
Yes.
So you can, and it does say, even though it does say knit crochet along, you can weave, you can macrame, you can...
I haven't seen any macrame socks or hats or anything in there.
Or those friendship bracelets, or I mean,
jewelry.
So many,
jewelry would work.
Anything. Yes, anything. So,
an ankle bracelet.
Oh yeah,
I need an ankle bracelet. I have beads. I should make myself an ankle bracelet. Crochet an ankle bracelet with the beads I have.
So anyway, we will draw the winner after the 25th of April, and we'll have 2 winners. One will receive a copy of the Abington Mitts pattern, and the other person will win the Coffee Socks collection patterns. So
so thank you. Shout out to Boston Jen for the Abington Mitts pattern, and Dots Dabbles Designs, who is Deborah, for offering us the Coffee Socks Collection Prize.
Yeah. So, Kelly, is there anything else we have to talk about?
I don't think so. This was a short
this is a surprisingly
episode.
short episode. Most of it was talking about trees.
I know. Well, sometimes you just don't have a lot. You don't have a lot of knitting going on. It has been, I had a lot because of spring break, but you've had a lot of construction stuff going on. So
yes, because I've got the Ballard houses under construction right now, or the remodels. So I have a lot going on. So
I do have one question.
Yes,
I just thought of this. Have you been able to find or been able to sign up for an appointment for a vaccine? Do you know?
No, I have not. I signed up for the in Washington State. They have the Washington what is it now?
Find Your Phase.
Oh, Find Your Phase. Find Your Phase WA.org, I think it is. Anyway, the point is I signed up for that, and I have received 3 emails, and so they send you an email, and so and it says you get it I got it like at 9:00 in the morning, and there's they say there's over the next 3 days there's appointments available at these locations, and then you just start clicking on and but nothing's available. There was nothing available at all. So then the 3 days pass, I get another email for over the next 3 days there's spots available at all these locations. Go in there. Nothing available. Got my 3rd one. There's spots available at all these locations, and nothing's available.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. So you were talking about your experience. It's sort of like getting concert tickets. And so I've heard today that even though my medical insurance is not Kaiser Permanente, you can go to Kaiser Permanente and go to their website and schedule an appointment.
Okay.
So tonight, that was something that I was going to do, is see if I can get an appointment. So what I'm finding is I fit the criteria now. I'm eligible, but I can't find an appointment.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things you have to just, I think really what I need to do is just sit down and just start in the morning and just early in the morning and just start looking where to get them.
Yeah. Ours, I mean, I always just looked at the county, the county website. That's where I started looking at the COVID data because I was interested in, how bad it was in Monterey County. And I started looking at that, and that's where I was looking for the vaccination information. But there's getting to be more and more supply. So
I think so. And I think that it's one of those things when you get the email, you can't wait 3 hours. Like I saw the email and when I looked at my email, when I first looked at my email, I saw, I have an email, and I realized it had been sent like 3 or 5 hours before. Right. That's just too late.
Yeah.
I have to just every morning, just start checking my email.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Or check the site that they tell you to go to, just bookmark the site and just go to the site.
Even after I get the vaccine, I don't really think that I'm going to be going to restaurants.
Right, no.
And honestly, sitting here right now, I have no idea when I'm going to be going back. I mean, I feel like once I get the vaccine, I'm probably not going to go back. When am I going back? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not really. I don't really have, I would like to go somewhere on a plane. Because I want to go someplace, but I'd like to go back to the life the way it was when we got to travel and stuff, but I can't see myself getting on a plane,
Right. Well, that'll take a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway. Well, so yes, it's something that I need to work on. And I think I need to be a bit more proactive or more on the ball with it too. And I'm going to, as soon as I get the email, I need to start searching for the email instead of just oh, look, I got an email.
Yeah, well, and it's not I had emails from colleagues who would be like, "Oh, I was on the website. I saw there's these many appointments available." I had that sort of network.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Well, since we have nothing else to talk about, I'm sure we could go on forever.
Yeah, but let's not.
Yeah. Okay, my dear. We will talk in 2 weeks.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Bye, Marsha.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2ewesfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 Ewes
doing our part for World Fleece.